Okay, thanks very much for inviting me. Yeah, I'd like to spend just 10 minutes telling you about the News Innovation Fund, which I don't know how many people here have heard of it, but it is indeed open to all. It's basically a large fund for people working in the news sector across Europe. It's come about in order to address some of the specific challenges that the news industry faces that I think we're all well aware of. But before I go into details about the fund and how it works, it's worth mentioning that Digital News Initiative from Google isn't just about this fund and about money. It's actually built on 3 pillars, of which the fund is just one of those. The first, product development, is a way that Google and participating news organizations have an ongoing dialogue, exploring product developments that will increase revenue, traffic, and audience engagement. The intention here from Google is that this dialogue will lead to product developments which will benefit the news ecosystem generally. The second pillar is research and training. Some of you may be aware of Google News Labs, which is part of this. Google is investing in training and development resources for journalists and newsrooms, and also funds research, such as the recently released Reuters report into the changing media landscape, which you may have been aware of. And then there's the fund, and that's the bit that I'm involved with. It's set up to stimulate innovation in the news ecosystem, and Google is making available 150 million euros over a 3-year period to do this. It's quite exciting for us actually to realize that we now are the biggest fund for news media in the whole of Europe, which says more about philanthropic funds than it does about anything else actually. But this fund is intended to inspire those in the sector to look at new business models, new ways of doing things, and experiment in order to work out a future for digital journalism. We're actually at the stage now where we've had 2 rounds. I'm going to talk mostly about the first round because we haven't yet announced the second round, but that will happen later this month. We've had many hundreds of news operators, one-man bands to large media companies fielding entries to this for consideration. The fund's open to for-profit organisations, non-profit organisations, as well as individuals. And the aim is to produce original journalism and enlighten citizens with trustworthy journalistic products. Established publishers, online-only players, news startups, or consortia of publishers in national and international associations are all eligible to apply in 32 countries in Europe. So what we're looking for, if you're thinking of entering, projects need to be really specific. Unlike the previous speaker here, we're not looking to invest in a company's modernization program. In fact, we're not looking to invest at all. It's not like VC funding. There's no equity taken. There's no IP transfer. It literally is a fund for a specific project. Successful applications have to have a strong digital element. That doesn't mean print is completely out. Other media could be part of the mix, but it is really about digital future. And finally, there's no limitation to the scope of the project. It could be focused on one company and how that works, or it could be a collaboration of many. In fact, we're very supportive of collaborative projects. We see this as one way that will really stimulate the news system. We'd also love to see more projects in the next round about monetization and the creation of new revenue streams. With such a kind of open eligibility criteria, the selection process is specific too. And we have 3 criteria which all the applications are reviewed against. The first is its impact. This is vital. We're looking for projects that could have a wider impact than just simply one company or one operator. It's great if it benefits the applicant, but we'd like to see that transferred across the news system. Secondly, we rate its innovation, and this is obviously a widely debatable thing. We haven't defined innovation anywhere. We want people to define what they believe is innovative for their organisation. This can be extremely different. Somebody operating in the UK or Germany, for instance, will be quite different from somebody operating in Hungary, and their starting point for innovation is going to be completely different. And finally, the feasibility is assessed. This will be similar to the VC funding type thing. Is this the right team? Have they got the necessary skills to deliver on it? Will they be able to sort of mitigate the risks and look at the consistency between the costs and the amount of funding that's coming up? The operation of the fund means there's 3 different tracks. The smallest is up to €50,000. These are really for prototypes, so for individuals, also organisations looking to really try something out. It's much more experimental than the larger funds. Larger funds, next one up is up to 300k, and finally up to €1 million. And with those larger funds, the projects have to bring some match funding of up to 30% for it. Just a quick word of the governance of this. There's 2 elements to the judging process. There's a project team, which I'm part of, and consists of Googlers, 3 of us, and then external experts that we appoint for each round to help us go through all the applications. And then for the large projects, there's the council here. They make the final decision on all large projects. There are 13 people drawn from across Europe. Lots of different perspectives and experiences. I don't know, some of you may be familiar with some of the people here, which includes the founder of Jawbone, for example, and the CEO of the UK's Telegraph Group. So, how are we doing to date? These, as I say, are the first round applications. We received 1,236 applications from 30 countries. And we selected 128 projects across 23 countries, a total of €27 million. You can see from the map that all the areas of Europe represented. Here in the UK, there were 14 successful projects, and there were also some of the biggest news groups from Europe represented, for example, NZZ in Switzerland, Agora in Poland, and Agence France Presse in France. Irish Times in Ireland. If you're interested in knowing more about the successful applicants, we have a list of them on the website, which I'll give the address at the end. And we're also going to provide more detail about those and how they're progressing, because obviously they're all underway now. The things we've been able to learn from it, some of the trends, they're going to really chime with the earlier speakers, actually. Video and virtual reality was the #1 kind of area that we saw from the first round. An example of this that you can see in action, Euronews, which you're probably familiar with, they wanted to have some funding to look at how they could really bring both 360 video and virtual reality to the newsroom in a way that wasn't going to involve a sort of cast of thousands. They want their operator to be able to go out and film and produce a workflow which really works for kind of a single operator to be able to utilize it. So they're up and running. I've seen one of their first things out was a really nice video from the running of the bulls in Pamplona, which really brought it home how very cramped and tight those streets are and how frightening the whole thing is. And so that you can see them in action at the moment. Data journalism is a bit of a vague term, actually, because it included both people doing journalism with data and also people collecting and analysing data sort of more internally. And as was mentioned earlier, personalisation is a huge trend. Now, if we look at the second round, we haven't yet announced it all, but I can tell you that AI stuff is a lot higher this time round, and we're seeing chatbots appearing in this list as well. So we're going to see a very big change on that. We also saw in that first round, we sort of give people advice if they're looking to apply for a future round. A round really about being more specific. We had a lot of applications in the first round that were just pure content creation, and we don't fund that. So we try and be very clear about that. And we also changed the rules slightly between the first and second to relate to that. If you're interested, we're just about to announce the second round, so there'll be a third round in the new year. And just before I hand over to the next speaker, obviously I will be around for a short while after this session, so if we don't get much time for questions and you've got something specific you want to ask me about the fund and applications, then please do. Thank you very much.